Good morning. It is Friday, just past 9 o'clock, and we have a local author here in studio. Mr. Matthew Daniels is going to be sharing everything that he has going on. We're going to be learning his story, where he grew up, and some of the things that led to the writing of this book. A couple things I want to share before we get into this interview is that the birthday ball is tonight at Butler's Courtyard. This is benefiting the Birthday Joy program. I have the honor to help MC that event. I'm very excited. If you have not heard about the Birthday Joy program, what they do is they throw birthday parties for kids who are in care of the government. They live in group homes. They don't usually have a birthday party at all because of the situations that they're in. So the Birthday Joy program comes in and throws birthday parties for these kids. If you want to support them, you can attend the birthday ball tonight. I think there may be a couple tickets left. They may have added tables. If you want to just donate, that's an option as well. So thank you for taking the time. If you're watching on social media, feel free to share this video out. Let me know what you got going on today. Maybe you have some plans for the weekend. If you're going back and listening on this podcast, you can always send me a text, 346-704-1806. Let me know that you are subscribed to KHEA Radio's podcast on Apple, or you are subscribed on Spotify. So let's get into this. We got Mr. Matthew Daniels here in studio sharing about everything he has going on. What's up, Matthew? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. So can you go back and tell me, when was the first time we met? And I remember the event, but there was a lot of people out there. So do you remember the first time that we ran into each other?
Yes, I do. It was actually this past year at the Lamarck Juneteenth Festival that they had over by the library right in Lamarck.
Yeah.
And I remember that I was invited by one of my friends. They told me about the event, and they asked me if I wanted to be a volunteer. They said that they had a lot of things going on, and they needed an extra set of hands. And I'm the type of person, whenever I can, whenever I'm available, whenever I'm not at work or don't have prior engagements with my family, if I can help out in the community, I don't mind helping out in the community. So I volunteered at the Juneteenth Festival, and that's actually when I found out that we actually had a radio station here in Lamarck, because you guys were out here. You and what's the other guy's name?
Kurt was out there.
Yeah, Kirk was out there. And I remember you guys were going around with the cameras, and I asked a few people. I was like, man, who are these guys out here filming?
Yeah.
And then they told me about the radio station that we had out here. And I just want to say real quick, it was a great event. If you missed the Juneteenth Festival that happened in Lamarck this past year, make sure you find out about the next one that's coming up in the year 2020, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be bigger and greater than the last one.
Yeah, I had my kids out there. My wife was out there. My parents were out there. It was a great time. They had bounce houses.
Mm-hmm.
There was food trucks and the vendors, and there was performances by some of the local students at the schools and maybe churches, and there was all kinds of people out there. It was a great time just to get together with the community, and I think that's important, especially with city officials, police officers, your neighbors, maybe people that you grew up with and don't talk to anymore. Just with everyone, being from this area. Do you think that's important, just to get together with there's all kinds of different people there, and just kind of communicating together and just hanging out?
Yes. One of the things that I did like about it was the Juneteenth Festival. And individuals that are familiar with the history, the Juneteenth Festival is in commemoration of the enslaved Africans acquiring their freedom here in this area and here in America. And so one would assume that at a festival such as the Juneteenth Festival and the Juneteenth celebration, that it would only be or primarily be descendants of those African Americans that are in attendance. But there was individuals from every walk of life that came out to show their support. And I personally feel like not only in America, but in the world and in our communities, those are the types of things that we need. We need to show unity, and we need to show solidarity. And I was excited also to see several city officials actually come out, because this was one of the first celebrations that was hosted by members of the community leaders, and it wasn't actually funded by the city officials themselves. but they still saw fit to come out and show their support and help. I remember a couple of times the power went out. I guess they had too many things plugged up, too many bouncy houses going, and and speakers to play music, and I guess it was too many things plugged up at one time. So on a few occasions, the power went out and everything cut off. And instead of panicking and getting flustered and not knowing what to do, everybody came together. A couple of city officials came out and they were checking breaker boxes and seeing what they could do to get the power back on. And we were able to get the power back on, and the community was able to have a wonderful event. So I just want to say thank you to all of the city officials that were able to come out, all of the people that are in office that was able to come out and show support, and most importantly, all of the members of the community that were able to come out and show support from all different races, all different backgrounds, all different, creeds or whatever. Whenever you have an event like that in your city, in your town, it's imperative that you show support and you show unity for one another, because we live with each other. We see each other on a day-to-day basis. If we can't get along in our everyday lives, and if we can't support each other in our endeavors on a day-to-day basis, then you are going to force yourself to live in an environment that you don't want to be in.
Yeah. And nobody's happy.
Exactly.
Nobody's happy. So we were talking to Matthew Daniels. He's a local author. Can we talk a little bit about you? Where are you originally from? What was life like growing up? And I want to get to hear your story and see how you became an author. How do you even put a book out? Because I honestly do not know. So let's find out a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Okay, I'm actually from right here in Texas City. Okay, I grew up on the east side of Texas City, down by the dike, and as a child, I was basically a nerd, man. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell the truth. I was your typical nerd, geek, bookworm, schoolboy. I was the individual that, as opposed to wanting to play outside and go hang with friends, I was inside doing homework, reading, studying. I always had a vivid imagination. I was that guy in school, and I tell people this all the time. I was that guy in school when it was time to take a test, right? And the teacher would pass out the test to everyone. I was the individual that everybody wanted to sit next to me. You know what I mean?
Matthew, I have to ask, were you the person, if the teacher forgot to take up the homework and the bell's about to ring and you're like, excuse me, miss, you didn't take up the homework, and everybody's like, Matthew, really? Was that
yes,
you?
Yes. I was the guy making hundreds on. Honestly, I didn't even have to try hard in school. That was the thing about it. I used to wonder why people always told me that I was smart. They would be like, man, you're smart, you're intelligent. You always make straight A's, and to me, it didn't really seem like I was doing anything special.
Yeah.
Because I was blessed, apparently. I was blessed with the kind of mind that I understand information pretty quickly.
Yeah. Did you have an easy time, remembering and recalling stuff?
Yes.
My wife is that way.
Yes.
I try, and I married her, and I'm hoping it rubs off on me, switching her pillow sometimes, but she has one of those, she reads something and she can just recite it back.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty cool gift. Did you have, your parents' support? You mentioned that your father, is a local reverend and pastor and has been, involved in the community as well and still is. Did you have your parents' support at that time, with being in school? Is that, maybe another thing that helped with that as well?
Yes. Just bringing up my father. Yes, my father, Reverend James Elwood Daniels, he has always been, and I can't stress this enough, and he is to this day a strong pillar in my life. There is nothing that I can go and ask him for that he will deny me. Any type of help I need, he's going to be there for me. My mother is the same way. My mother actually taught me how to read and write before I ever went to school. I could read and write before I ever went to school. And I remember vividly back when I was in the first grade, and they let us out for No, I was in kindergarten, and they let us out for summer vacation. And the local library, Moore Memorial Public Library, they had a contest over the summer. And they said that if you could read over 100 books over the summer, then they were going to host a pizza party before individuals went back to school.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so my mother, she would always take me to the library. I would get some books, check out some books, go home. I would read them, and then she'd take me back up to the library. I'd check them out, bring them back, and I would read them. And I was adamant about reading those 100 books so that I could get that pizza party before school went back in.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was actually one of the individuals who actually read the 100 books, and they put it in the newspaper, right? They gave a list of the names of the children in the area who had read over 100 books. And I remember when I started in the first grade, my first grade teacher had told me that the teachers had saw the students who was able to read that many books over the summer, and they were, I guess, in a light competition, so to speak, to get those students into their classroom. And so my first grade teacher was telling me how she was glad to have me in her classroom because she felt like that
I got a good one. I
have a student that's actually willing to learn. So if it was not for my parents, both my mother and my father, I would not have succeeded as well as I did in my earlier years in school. Like I say, I owe being able to read and write to my mother, and I owe both of them, but primarily my father, for just the moral standards that I held myself to in my own life. My father instilled values in me. Now, I just said that it's I can go to my father for anything, and he won't turn me away. I'm going to tweak that a little bit. He will not enable me, because my father feels like if I ask him for something, he's going to give it, but he's always going to push me to do the necessary things in life to acquire things for myself, you know?
Yeah.
And so I have a mentality now that makes me successful because I don't take no for an answer. If I have a dream, if I have a goal, if I have an ambition, I'm not going to sit around and wait for somebody to give me a handout. I'm going to make it happen. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to push. I'm going to press, and I'm going to acquire whatever it is that I'm trying to acquire. And I get that from watching my father. My father, he never gave up. Every day I saw him, he got up and went to work, even if he was sick, even if he had a runny nose, even if his back hurt a little bit, even if his arms hurt, even if his legs hurt, even if his feet hurt. He knew that he had responsibilities. And so now in my life, I know that I have responsibilities. Mm-hmm. I have a wife. I have 3 children. I have people that depend on me. I also have goals, and I also have ambitions. So no matter what I'm going through in life, the values instilled in me from my father forces me to get up and continue to go out and make something happen. So I wouldn't be the man that I was without my parents.
You know, I got a question. This is from actually Councilman Leha. He is with the city of Santa Fe. He's a great guy and does a lot for, I'd say, the county, the community, and everything else. But he was curious, did your father have that same relationship with his father?
Oh, yes. My grandfather, my father's father, rest in peace. He passed away in 2001, I believe it was. So rest in peace to him. But he was a strong figure in my father's life. And my father talks to me all the time and tells me about my grandfather. And I'll say this. He was the same way in the sense of when I was younger, they used to call my grandfather the peanut man, right? Because he had a job working in the refineries, but he also would sell peanuts, and he also would cut grass, and he also would do anything he needed to do to provide for his family. Earlier on, his wife, my grandmother, had come down with an illness, and she was no longer able to work. And so the burden of taking care of my grandfather's family, mm-hmm. my dad and his brother, fell on him. And so that hustler spirit inside of him.
By any means necessary, just like you're saying, yeah.
He would cut grass, he would sell peanuts, and I remember they used to call him the Peanut Man, and I used to always see that. And I used to tell myself as a kid, I had ambitions to do things just like that. I remember me and my brothers, and this had to be a trickle-down effect directly from him. We went out one day, and we were going door to door trying to sell comic books and baseball cards and drawings that we had. And it was just that mentality of, if there is something that you want, you use your mind and you use your imagination to figure out a way to get it. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so my grandfather, he was always there for my father. And he was always there for his grandchildren as well. There was several times that I'll get into later as the show progresses, when I started to get in trouble myself, my grandfather was right there for me, showing support, helping me out. I can't pretend like I come from a household with a absentee mother or absentee father or grandparents that weren't in my life. My personal experience is I had a loving home. I have loving parents. Both of my parents are still alive. And my grandfather, although he has passed away, he was always a strong figure in all of our lives.
Yeah.
And, we love and respect him to this very day.
So you had a good start, a great foundation. Parents taking in more Memorial Library, they still have programs where they have those competitions and things. I bring the library in once a month, and we talk. They're actually closed for renovation, but they're opening up, I think, February 17th, and I'm trying to make sure that I can get out there for the grand opening. They're going to do a ribbon cutting and everything else. They have a program that's encouraging parents to read 1,000 books before school starts to their kids. And my mind just is blown. Like, whenever I hear that, I'm like, 1,000 books, but they were breaking it down like, this is all you got to do. So I have kids as well, so I'm working on that. But it's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the long run. So you had a great start, great foundation. Parents are there. Was it always like, I'm going to say, like, easy sailing in school? Did you kind of just like coast through high school, all ups, and just like make it to here today? Like, what did that journey look like?
Well, yes and no, because you kind of said a lot. Now, as far as grades are concerned, yes, it was easy. It was easy selling. Yes, I never had a problem with passing, but I will say this: I'm the youngest in my family. I actually have 6 big brothers and 2 older sisters, and so my older brothers, while several of them can make the same claims that I'm making of being intelligent and having straight A's, et cetera, that they by the time I got to 8, 9, 10, those types of ages, it was clear that they had already chosen a life in the streets. Okay, we're talking about being in gangs, being involved in street culture. We're talking about going to the county jail. We're talking about catching felonies. We're talking about being in trouble. I remember when I was around 12 years old, I remember one of my brothers got shot, and one of my brothers went to jail for shooting at the guy, imagine that shot my brother. And so I had a weird dichotomy, I guess the word is, going on, because like I told you, I was like a nerd, right? I was a bookworm, a geek, a schoolboy, and that's what interests me. But I would always hear and see my brothers, and their friends living a life contrary to how I saw myself living a life.
Did any of that appeal to you?
Yes. And I would often have to battle in my own mind that how can I say it? I felt as if something was wrong with me, right?
Okay.
Because generally human beings, we learn through imitation. You know, we learn how to talk by watching and hearing people talk. We learn how to walk by seeing people walk. We learn from what we see, and we mimic, and we copy. Okay, and so my big brothers, they were my idols. You know, I had a loving mother and I had a loving father, but the closest people to me were my brothers. And so I idolized them. I wanted to be, they always appeared so strong, you know. And if I ever needed help, if I ever had a problem with someone, I knew I could go to one of my brothers and my brothers could handle it. And I saw the level of respect and popularity that my brothers got. And so I began to feel as I got older as if it was something wrong with me. You know, I had to question, was I weak? Was it a good thing to be a nerd, or is that something to be shunned? Is it a good thing to be a bookworm, or is that something to be shunned? Because here I am, I don't have much friends, I don't have much popularity, I don't have all the respect. And as I got older, I don't have the women looking at me how maybe I would want them to.
Look how many books he read. He got an A on his test.
Yeah. Nobody was interested.
But
in
maybe
that.
they should. I've seen a bunch of memes like that. It's like, oh, look at this guy, he has it all and this stuff, and then it has the dude doing the work. And then like later he's like, you know, successful in life, and the other guy's serving time, you know, or whatever else happened, you know.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so from watching my brothers, what I like to tell people now is I use the term mentally corrupt. I mentally corrupted myself into believing that was better than this. And so around high school is when everything started to change for me, right? Everything started to change for me. I mentally convinced myself that it was better to be a thug than to be a nerd. It was better to be a gangster than it was to be a schoolboy. You know, it was better to go to jail than to graduate. And I know some of the people listening, they may wonder how this can happen. But I'll assure you, whether an individual admits it or not, if you see someone going down the path of self-destructive behavior, I guarantee it's because they see more value in that than empowering themselves, because you're going to do what you want to do. So if they're going down a path of self-destructive behavior, you may want to have a real serious talk with them about what they want out of life. Because I saw, again, being a thug, a gangster, a criminal, going to jail. In my mind, I saw that as being better than a nerd, a bookworm, a geek, because I saw that the thug or the criminal, it appeared that they had things that I wanted that I did not have as a nerd. So, okay, I'm going to be a gangster. I'm going to be a thug, you know?
Yeah.
And so I switched it was like I was going down the track of life to untold success.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mentally, at the next stop, I got off and I just got on the next train. And as a result of that, I started hanging with a different crowd. I started doing things that I probably never would have done at 10, 11, 12, 13.
And you're in high school at this time?
Yeah, I'm in high school.
So were you hanging out with people who were out of high school, or mainly high school people, or what did that look like? Both?
Both, yeah. I started to hang with individuals in high school that were willing to do things that we were not supposed to do. And it was almost easy for me, because when I interacted with older people in the streets, because of my brothers, you know, and because of the status that they had, I was welcomed in automatically. And whereas some people may have problems, or they may have to prove themselves, or they may be prey. Some individuals are preyed upon when they go into the streets if they have not been around that for several years.
Pretty much, it's just like a pawn in a game.
Exactly.
You know, if they're like the king or, you know, a higher ranking, you get them to just do stuff because they're naive, young, and you were sharing something with me that I had never realized before we went on the air about, you know, people you know preying on kids in high school or under 18 that don't have a record.
Yes. What people have to realize, especially if you have young children, right? Teenagers primarily. What you have to realize is that there is an older element in the street culture, in the criminal culture, and their mentality is to convince your children, your teenage children, to commit the crimes for them, because they will convince those teenagers that even if you get caught, the worst that can happen is maybe you'll go to juvenile, they'll put you on probation. That's one thing they'll say. Or maybe if you're 15 and you go out there and kill someone, they'll probably just put you in prison, put you in TYC until you turn 18, or put you in prison until you turn 21, and then you can get out and you can have the rest of your life still ahead of you. Where that older individual, they know, because they have already expended all of their chances. They've already been to the county 2 and 3 times. They've already been to the penitentiary 2 and 3 times. Mm-hmm. They've already gotten the 2 years. They've already gotten the 5 years. And they know if they go back, they're going to get 10, 15, 20, 25. And so they don't want to do that kind of time. So what they are going to do, they're going to try to convince someone else to do the crime for them. It could be something as simple as selling drugs. Sometimes you will see, you'll have young kids selling drugs, right? But when you really investigate what's going on, they're selling drugs for an older individual who doesn't want to have to expose himself to the dangers of being caught, because he knows if he gets caught, they're going to send him away. And he's probably already messed up so many times in his life that if they send him away, they're going to send him away for 20, 25, 30 years. And so he's going to convince that juvenile that if they do it, I personally heard it. This is how I know this to be a fact. I personally heard, Matt, if you get caught, you're only 16, right? Mm-hmm. What are they going to do?
And does that make sense to you?
Probation?
Yeah, at the time, you're just like, you know what?
At the time, it wasn't even if it really made sense. It definitely sounded believable. What did I know? I had no interaction with the judicial system and with the penal institutions to know what they would or wouldn't do. So I believed these other individuals who had been to prison before. So yes, I was convinced, but it was more so about the acceptance. See, what you have to understand is a lot of these kids, right? When they look at movies and they hear rap songs, right, and they see their older friends and they're talking about the things that they have done, it's like a term for it. They call it war stories, right? When you relay a story about something that you have done, some criminal activity that you have partaken in, and if you express it in such a light, a positive light, then the individual who doesn't have a story like that, especially these youngsters, these teenagers, these juveniles, they want to be able, they may not even admit it, but I'm telling you a fact, they want to be able to have some of these stories to share themselves. And you know this to be true because they will even lie about it. You notice how a lot of times when you see rappers, right? Some of these rappers have never done the things that they saying that they're doing, right? But they understand the reaction that they can get from talking about, killing people, selling drugs, committing robberies, breaking into houses. They understand the reaction that they can get from these stories. And if one is lying about these stories, then it proves that individuals want to be able to have these stories about themselves because they feel as if it puts them in a certain light. People, they want to be seen as gangster. So when these older individuals give them the opportunity, like, hey, look here, this is what I want you to do. I want you to break into that house right here, look for this, and this, and bring that back, right? And even if they aren't sent to do it, a lot of times after they do it, they're going to go to one of their older friends because they're going to want to brag. You know, I remember, and I want to be clear, I'm not bragging about any of this. The only reason why I feel comfortable talking about it and I like to share my story is because I want to give someone hope. If you realize that someone has thought like you and has done the things that you have done and were able to come out of it on the other side, then maybe you'll believe me when I tell you that you don't have to do any of that foolishness in the first place. But I remember I was so caught up in that type of a mind state that me and my friends, I went to juvenile for this, right? We went on a burglary spree, okay? And so I always wanted to be the individual to go in first. And somebody may ask, well, why would you want to go in first? You know, like anything could happen. What if someone is home? What if you get killed? You know, but I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't even thinking about what if I lose my life? What if I get arrested? What if I get hurt? You know what I was thinking about, Gardy? I was thinking about telling the story later and being able to say, yeah, I went in first, you know, because I'm thinking about the story that I will be able to tell.
To be able to validate everything. Yeah.
Yes, because it would make me look better in the eyes of that world. And so, like I say, around high school, my life totally went off track. You went to juvie for that? Was that one of like the worst things that happened, or was it multiple things that stacked up? Okay, now it's gonna sound crazy,
yeah,
but I want to be transparent. It was one of the best to me in my corrupted mind state. It was one of the best things that could have happened. You know, I got arrested for breaking into the schools, committing vandalisms, and a couple of burglaries. Me and two of my other friends, and so here we were. We were in Jerry J. Esmond Juvenile Detention Center up off Highway 3. You know what I'm talking about, that the juvenile?
I don't know where it is.
Okay, well it's a juvenile up the road. Off 146.
Okay.
It's off 140. If you ride up 146, you'll eventually see it. It's the juvenile facility. And so here I was, and man, in my mind, it was like an accomplishment. Okay, because again, in the music, in the movies, in the stories, in some of the older people that you can surround yourself with, and even with some of the friends that you can have, when everybody is talking about going to jail, right? When you really think about it, especially like in the music, when everybody is talking about going to jail and they're making it seem like it's some type of respect to be garnered from that, as if it's something to be proud of,
like a badge that you can wear.
You got it. That's a good way to say it. It's like a badge of honor, you know. So when I was in there, I wasn't feeling like, oh man, I messed up. I threw my life away. Here I am in juvenile. I was honestly thinking about, okay, now that I'm here, okay, now I have to fight somebody so that
Get
because this
badge.
is what you do in jail. Now
Wow.
I have to show that I'm tough enough in jail to dominate, you know, to be the man. And so that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to deter me. It actually sent me deeper into what I keep wanting to call my mentally corrupted state. I felt like I had reached the new tier, that I had reached the new level, you know? And so now when I get out, I can, oh man, I was just in juvenile. Now I have that story to add to my life.
Here's a question that just came in. What was, if there was there a rock bottom that made you want to change things eventually or change things?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Well, we're gonna have to fast forward for that because I relished in the filth for years, right? I enjoyed the debauchery for years. So what happened was I've actually been to not only the juvenile, but I've been to prison twice. Okay, I went in, got out on parole, and I went back. And so when I went back to prison the second time, right, that was almost when they closed the doors on me and I was in Galveston County Jail. I thought that was rock bottom, but it wasn't, because I was like, man, I had my life back. You know, I was working, I had my own place, I had a car, I was doing things, you know, and now here I am, I'm back in jail with another charge. I had got caught with an illegal firearm on parole, and if you have a felony, you can't own a firearm. So I got caught with that, and they sent me back. And so they gave me 2 years, but I had to do 3 years because I had to finish time from a previous case. And so what happened was they sent me to a processing unit. When you first go to prison, they send you to a processing unit where they send you through medical. They draw your blood, they shave your hair, they do all of this stuff while they figure out what unit in Texas they're going to send you to, because you can go anywhere. You can go to the Panhandle, you can go south, you can go east, you can go west, you can go 100 miles away from your family, or you can stay close to home. You know, it's all a toss up. It's guesswork. So I was on this processing unit, and what they do is they give you like 2 sets of clothes, right? So you can wear a set one day, you bathe, you put on your new set, then you take the dirty clothes to what they call laundry. You take it to the laundry, they exchange that for a new set of clean clothes, and you rotate out like that. And so what happened was, since I was being processed in, every day I had somewhere to be. So this particular day I had a medical lay-in to where I had to go to medical and get a TB test or something like that. I'm not 100% sure of the specifics, but it was probably something like a TB test. That's one of the primary things that they do. And so while I was at the medical lay-in, I missed the call for laundry for my dorm, because they go dorm by dorm, so everyone doesn't crowd it at one time. It's structured. And so when I got back, I realized that everyone had changed out their clothes. So I told the guard, you know, I was like, hey, I didn't get to change out my clothes. I was at the medical lay-in. I showed him my pass. I was like, hey, can you let me go down there to try to change it out? So he told me they probably wouldn't do it, but I could try. Mm-hmm. So I go down to the medical, and I try to exchange the clothes. Long story short, they wouldn't do it. So I got upset, right? I was already angry about my situation, you know. So I got upset. So I fly off the handle. I start using profanity. I cuss out the guard. I'm yelling. I'm screaming, and I'm walking back towards my dorm. But I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm cursing, I'm just letting out all of my frustration. And so a sergeant, because they have ranks in there, like lieutenants, majors, sergeants, almost like military rank, but it just denotes higher levels of individuals. You have the regular COs, the sergeants, the lieutenants, the mayors, the warden, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a hierarchy. And so a sergeant come to me, and he was like, hey, you know, he tell me to calm down, quit all that yelling, quit cussing, blah, blah, blah. So me and him, we start getting into it with each other, right? And we start cussing each other out, like, and, you know, chest to chest, like we're going to fight. But I'm going to be honest, I wasn't going to fight him, because I know that, for one, if I really physically fight you, I could possibly get another charge. An assault charge.
Oh, yeah.
And I only have 2 or 3 years to do, you know, at the most. And I'm thinking I could probably make parole, and, you know, 8-9 months, I'll be back out. I'm not about to fight you and end up doing those 10, 12 years. You know what I mean? But I will get this off of my chest and talk to you however I want to talk.
Didn't want to back down.
Right?
Yeah, you're upset.
Exactly. Yeah. And so another guard intervenes and puts me in handcuffs. And so they take me off to this room, right? Take me off to this building. I go into this hallway. And the whole time, me and this guy, honestly, this particular CO, he must have been going through something in his life as well, because he was just as intense as me. I'm not even gonna lie. I was wondering, like, man, this guy, something wrong with him. I remember thinking that something is wrong with him. And so we get into this hallway, and he tells the other officer, go get the lieutenant. So we're in a small hallway, and my chest is against a wall, and he's standing behind me, and he's holding the handcuffs. And so when the other guy walks off, he leans into my ear, and he's like, say that stuff now. But he doesn't say stuff, right?
Yeah.
But he say that stuff now. And so, we argue back and forth some more. And so out of nowhere, the guy headbutts me, right in the back of my head. Take me totally by surprise, because I wasn't expecting a physical confrontation. And when he headbutted me, I blinked, and it took a moment to register. And I was like, what, man? I say, man, did you just headbutt me? So he was like, yeah, you think you bad, you think you tough, and he going in. And so I get more angry, and I yell some more, and I cuss him out some more. Guy headbutts me again, right in the back of my head. Boom, and he headbutt me, and I hit the wall. And so now I'm really upset, but I'm also starting to worry, because now, like, in prison, they will rough you up. The guards don't have a problem with that. Like, if you go too far, they will rough you up. Like, if you try to fight, they have protocols in place, right? You won't win. It's impossible to win. It's too many of them. So he eventually headbutts me a third time. Okay, so when he headbutts me the third time, I have to analyze things. Okay, he's trying to hurt me, right? He's trying to
potentially escalate the situation. Yeah,
he's not going to stop.
Right.
So what I did, I made the decision to the best of my ability, engage in this with him. Right now, it's only so much I can do because I'm handcuffed. I'm borderline afraid of getting hurt, because, you handcuffed. I'm handcuffed on my back, and I know I couldn't win even if I wasn't handcuffed, because there's too many of them. But I put my foot on the wall. I pushed back against him into the other wall, and we just started wrestling around, doing whatever I can do. And at that point is when the other officers came around the corner. And so when the other officers came around the corner, now it looks like I'm fighting with this guy. They don't know that
they just walked around
he's
the corner.
headbutting me, right? He's headbutting me, and I don't know what else to do about it. And so they ran down the hallway, and man, Gordy, they roughed me up.
You're handcuffed. You're handcuffed.
Yeah, man, they roughed me up like pretty bad. Pretty bad. And so I get beat up. They carry me off to this small room, and they strip me of all my clothes, everything, glasses, socks, boxers, shirt, pants, everything, okay, everything. And so then they take me through this lockup room to where it's people in lockup. So it's guys in cages. And when they see the guards coming through, they're bringing me, they're yelling, they're screaming, I just hear cages rattling, and it's crazy scene, like straight out of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what they're about to do to me now. So I'm already hurt, I'm already roughed up, and I'm really thinking, like, what have I gotten myself into now? So they take me to this room. They unlock the door, they throw me inside of this room, and it wasn't a cell. Now, lockup has its own rec yard. So this room was almost like a vestibule. It was a locked door here and a locked door there. You're on the inside. And the other locked door in front of you, it leads outside to a fenced-in basketball court that they use for recreation, 1 hour a day. They get recreation. And so inside of the room with me, it was a stainless steel toilet sink combo. It was a seat. It was like a little table attached to the wall, and it was like a pull-up bar. Now, it's the middle of like December. And so the cold air is coming up under the door. The room is cold because the AC is on. The floor is like concrete. The walls are concrete, and everything in here is steel. So I can only speculate as to what the temperature was, but when I say I've never been that cold in my life, but we from Texas, you know, most of us don't fare well with cold weather anyway. And so it was so cold that the bottom of my feet hurt. But there was nothing to stand on because everything was concrete and steel. Everything had the same temperature. So what I had to do is I took my right foot and I put it on top of my left foot, and I crouched down into a ball to try to conserve my body heat, and I stayed in that position until the bottom of my left foot couldn't take it anymore. Then I put my right foot down and I put my left foot on top of my right foot, and I stayed in that position until my right foot couldn't take it anymore. And so they left me in there for several hours. I don't even know how long it was. They left me in there for several hours, and all I could do is just keep switching feet. And it was in that moment that I really had to analyze my life.
That was rock bottom.
I thought back to when I had mentally corrupted myself and convinced myself that it was better to be a thug than a nerd, right?
Yeah.
And it was better to be a gangster than a schoolboy. And I looked at what my life had became, right? What my life had got into. Here I was on my way back to prison yet again. No friends.
Did you get extra charges from that?
No. Luckily I didn't. What ended up happening is when they finally pulled me out, the lieutenant tells me that I basically had two options, because the first guard that had headbutted me some kind of way, I busted his nose. I don't know if he busted his nose when I was swinging and kicking around, or if he did it when he was headbutting me. You know, have no way of knowing.
Lots of options.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so the lieutenant told me I had two options, right? Either I could pursue what they did to me and try to like, file charges on them for beating me up, or and if I did that, then they would do the same to me, because he has a busted nose, and who do I think the courts are going to believe?
Right. Or it could just go away. They don't say nothing. I don't say nothing. So they didn't even write me a case. And they gave me new clothes. Imagine that. The clothes that I couldn't get in the beginning. I got the clothes. Wow.
I got the clothes, but it cost me everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have about, no joke, there's only about like 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So you from that point said you needed to make a change, and kind of set you on the path to where you are today, which there's a book that came out. Can you let me know what the name of the book is? When did it come out? How can people get a hold of it?
Oh, okay. So my book is called Suicide Note, and it was released in September of last year, around like September 19th, 2019, and it's actually doing really well right now. People can either go to Amazon.com, they can type in Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels, and they can get the book, or they can go to Walmart.com, type in Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels, they can acquire the book. I even saw it, you can order it from halfpricebooks.com, and I saw it on at least 24 other bookstore, online bookstores. So if Amazon, Walmart, Half Price Books, if you don't want to do business with them, you could always just Google a random bookstore that's in your area. Just go to the online website and put in Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels in the search engine, and you can see if the book will come up. You can also get the book directly from me. I have been selling signed copies that I can mail anywhere in the world, and if anyone is in my particular area, I can get it to you personally. And so my Facebook is Matthew Daniels, my regular name. Also have a Facebook page. It's called Everything Matthew Daniels. So you could reach out to me via any one of those social media platforms. And if you would like the book, you can just let me know that you would like to order a copy of the book, and I can personally send you a signed copy.
Do you think the COs, anybody who is working in the jail, or people that knew you from the time of juvenile to serving time in county and prison, do you think they're surprised that you wrote a book?
Yes, some of them will be. But I'll tell you this: on one of the units I was at, I used to always tell the guys, the actual unit that I wrote the book on, I wrote the book while I was in there for the second time.
Really?
After my rock bottom is when I actually wrote the book, right? And so I used to tell them that I had now figured it out, and I know how to change my life, and I know how to change my circumstances. You just change how you think. You change what's important to you. You change your outlook on the world. And I used to tell them, just be on the lookout, because one day you will see me on TV. This is what I used to tell them. I said, if you see me on TV, just tell anybody around you that, hey, that guy's he's a real dude. He's telling the truth. He's not just faking. Because I told him I had figured it out.
I mean, so as far as like content for the book, did you draw on like life experiences, stories that you heard, just things that came to you out of nowhere? I mean, did you pull from everything just to be able to create that book because you started it while you were, serving, I guess, that second term? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I'll try to be quick. The first book I tried to write, it was a science fiction novel about time travel. And one thing I realized is that it's difficult to write a book about places and events that you have no knowledge of unless you have the access to research material. So I switched gears. And I realized that you
didn't have the access at the time. I didn't have the access,
because I was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that, okay, I can take my ability to write a dynamic fictional story with romance, humor, drama, pain, that can make you angry, that can make you sad, that can make you cry, that can make you want to scream. I can write a book like that. But in order for me to finish it in my conditions without access to research material, I have to put the setting in a setting that I can accurately explain and describe. So, yes, the book is fictional. I always tell people that. It's fictional. But I drew off of my experiences and my outlook on the world in order to make it real. It's as if I was a doctor and I write a book about surgery. The surgery may not be a surgery that I performed, but since I'm familiar with surgery, I know how to make it sound real and realistic, and I will have to draw from some type of personal experience. So within the book, the main character, he goes through a lot of the mental states that I'm trying to explain here. The book is ultimately one to try to give individuals hope and to spotlight that the street culture is not as grandiose as people make it out to be. There is a lot of pain. There is a lot of heartache. There is a lot of sorrow. And the farther you go down in it, the worse off things will get. That picture has to be painted. And so I chose an outlet in my book form, and I used this fictional character to illustrate how these things can play out in one's life.
Yeah.
So that if an individual, maybe they can read it, they can get some kind of hope, and they can realize that, you know what, if I want to be successful, if I want to be great, if I want to reach my dreams, I don't have to do any of this negative stuff. I could have skipped over all of this and been an author at 15. Instead of going to jail, I could have wrote a book.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the message of hope that I want to give people.
What's plan for the future? Like, are you gonna work on a second book or a sequel, a new series, or what's your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm definitely going to keep writing. I actually, while I was in there, I wrote more than just one book. Suicide Note was just the first one that I was able to successfully get published. Getting published is a process. It's definitely a process, and I had to figure things out as I went. So it's set in Dickinson, Texas, the book Suicide Note. But I also have a book set in Lamarck. I have one set in Galveston, and I have one set in Texas City.
That's cool that it's actual local cities right here.
Exactly.
Very cool.
And so my ultimate goal is to have these characters run into each other in a ultimate sequel.
I like that.
Major book, because they're all in these areas. I just have to give you their backstories and where they come from. And after I'm able to release these other books, I can actually work on the book to where I merge some of these characters together and show you how all of these lives are interconnected.
Wow. So right now it's 9:58. You're listening to KHEAradio.com, 99.5 FM. We are speaking to author Matthew Daniels about the future and his book Suicide Note and a lot of his story as well. Is there anything else you would like to share while you're here today?
Yes. Again, if anyone would like to purchase the book or even to read the synopsis, you can go to Amazon.com. And on Amazon.com, you can get it in Kindle ebook form. And they also give you a preview of the book, but you can read like the first chapter to see if it's something that you'll be interested in. You can also get the book at Walmart.com. Just type in Suicide Note by Matthew Daniels, Matthew James Daniels. You can also get the book from halfpricebooks.com, or you can contact me via social media. My name is Matthew Daniels. Add me, send me a friend request, and I also have a page called Everything Matthew Daniels. Send me a friend request, like the page, just reach out to me, and I can mail a signed copy of the book anywhere in the world.
All right. Matthew, thank you for hanging out today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.